What it do, what it did, what it does. I'm Lil Lo, and apparently I have to show you how to interview the cast of Heated Rivalry without objectifying them, and I'm happy to do so, so here I am. So y'all are responding really well to that video about objectifying the cast, like better than I expected, so thank you so much for that outpouring of love and agreement on that video, because I was just starting to get a little bit alarmed with the way that we were treating not just Hudson and Connor, but Francois, like the entire cast. Y'all were getting really fucking creepy. And one of the issues that I pointed out in that video was it's not even just the general public, the fans, but the way that these people are being interviewed, where they have to lean into this behavior that is also unacceptable and problematic. And we've got a long time before the season 2 premiere. We can always turn this motherfucker around, you know what I'm saying? So let's try to do that together. So I have questions here for Francois, Robbie G.K, Ksenia, Connor, and Hudson, in addition to questions for the entire cast that could be used without objectifying our favorite people. I was gonna give my credentials first, but I don't think that you wanna wait any longer. So without further ado, here are questions that I would ask everyone who comes past my interview booth. Is there a line in the show delivered by another character that you truly wish had been yours, or just envy the way that it was delivered? While you were filming, obviously you weren't hearing the soundtrack to season 1. Is there a song from season 1 since airing that has been in constant rotation on your personal playlist? And no, you can't say all the things she said. That's too easy. If there were one character on the show that you were absolutely certain you could beat in a game of cards, who would it be? Now, those were easy lobs, so you're probably like, what the fuck are her credentials? 1, I'm half of Let Me Stay Focused, the podcast. We have done interviews like this at premieres before. And 2, let me make this my opportunity to pitch myself to Crave and HBO Max. Come fuck with your girl, myself, my co-host, Big Shot Shay. I'm sure you don't have enough black folks on that carpet. I'm sure you don't have enough black women on that carpet. And I'm for damn sure you ain't got enough studs on that carpet. Let us up there, baby. We're gonna shake it up some, without making everyone uncomfortable. Now, some questions I would ask Francois, who plays Scott Hunter. 1, Scott is one of the few characters on the show who does not have family as a reason to stay in the closet. How does that impact how you portrayed his relationship with his teammates, Kip, and others? 2, Scott doesn't always have the warmest relationship with Shane and Ilya, but he does represent an older generation of hockey players and help create a space for hockey players like themselves. Were there moments where you consciously leaned veteran player or older brother, even though y'all's relationship was tense? What was it like portraying someone who was not even confident in themselves on a journey towards being a trailblazer, not only for themselves, but for others? Scott Hunter's essentially considered part of the Holy Trinity as far as Heated Rivalry was concerned. Considering that Scott's storyline is condensed more than Shane and Ilya's, did you expect the amount of love that you got, not necessarily from the fans of the books, but the fans of the show? If you could portray one other hockey player on the show that was not a captain, who would it be? Moving on to Kip. So, Robbie, Kip exists slightly outside of the world of hockey. That makes him almost sort of like a grounding presence, like the everyday person within the story. What choices did you make to ensure that Kip felt distinct from the hockey players while still feeling emotionally connected to the world of hockey? As Kip, you had to win over the audience in essentially one episode. Were there any intentional choices that you made to make Kip immediately more endearing and trustworthy to the audience? Kip has a strong support system, particularly multiple women who show up deeply, honestly, and frequently for him. How important was that in your development of how you were going to portray Kip? If both you and Kip could do a museum exhibit, what do you think they would be about individually? In a series centered around male relationships, what did it mean to portray someone whose emotional stability comes not only from romantic relationships, but from friendship? If I had Ksenia, who played Svetlana, in front of me, I would say something like, Svetlana's relationship with Ilya is a lot more deep and layered than we see in other relationships with women, for example, like Shane and Rose. How did you approach portraying a relationship that was so deeply layered and had so much history there, especially with the limited screen time of Svetlana? Because you have the hair that the world is going crazy for right now. And as a curly girl myself, I need to know how we access this level of blonde with that level of moisture and avoiding that much damage. What do you use in your hair? We know that you being cast as Svetlana gave you more freedom to go a little bit off book with the character. Was there anything in the book that you felt like you needed to keep as the core of Svetlana? And is there anything that, despite not being explicitly stated in the book, that you wanted to make sure was a part of Svetlana and her portrayal on screen? Up next, we got one of the golden boys. We got Connor. I would probably ask something like, so Connor, you talked about getting behind the camera recently to work on a film about sort of like existentialism, where a alien sort of comes down to Earth and gets to live in the form of a human. Is there anything that you took from Jacob or other directors that you worked with and applied to your working with the actors in your film? Ilya is a character who's presumed chaotic by most of the people around him and sort of impulsive and reckless, but we know that he's deeply feeling and a little bit more calculated than people want to give him credit for. How did you approach balancing his impulsiveness with the level of emotional control that he actually has and making sure that comes across to the audience? This is a burning question for me for Connor, and if I ever got the opportunity, I really need the answer to this. So you've spent a lot of time away from Texas, and I know that before Texas, you lived in California for a bit, but now you're in Canada filming this show. How has that cultural transition been for you personally? And to be more direct, be honest, how do you feel about Canadian food? Next, we have y'all's favorite, Hudson. As a Canadian yourself, how does it feel to be a part of one of the biggest things to come out of Canada in 2025 and that shares so much of Canada's culture with the world? Shane is a character who often says what he's thinking out loud in a very direct manner. While people may think that that's an easier character to portray, oftentimes it's not. How did you approach playing a character that is so emotionally vulnerable and direct? Hudson, your micro expression work as Shane on this show has been absolutely impeccable. People constantly talk about how they can tell exactly what you're feeling, even if you've already said it, through those eyes. Did you make a conscious decision to portray Shane through his eyes in the way that you did? Or is it something that just came forward with playing the character? And now a more important but necessary question. Have you ever actually had a tuna melt? How do you feel about tuna melts? I looked up what a tuna melt is and I wasn't over the moon about it. Have you ever made one? Do you stand by them? And then I would have some questions if Connor and Hudson walked up together. And those questions would be, knowing that there was a built-in core fan base for this and knowing how much these people care about the books, was it ever difficult not to lean too hard into a moment that you knew would be important for folks? For example, like, oh, do you want to tune him out? Like, not doing that, but really portraying the moment as it would have been experienced by the characters. You both play characters that are part of more than one dynamic duo, right? Like Shane has Rose at times, he has his mom at times, he has Ilya, he has Hayden Pike. Ilya also has Svetlana, he has Cliff Marlowe, amongst other people. What was the process like showing up to each of those relationships as a different version of your character? And how did you make sure to do that authentically? Now that we know that you've both read the books, what is one scene from the books that didn't make it into the show that you really wish had? These have been super short questions that I just made up right now because I really wanted to prove the point that you can ask interesting questions that don't have to do with people's like bodies and like all of the other shit that we talked about in the last video. Like this video wasn't even scheduled. I literally just threw this together. So my question is, why can't actual journalists do so? Again, I want to be clear. You think I'm fucking joking? This is an actual pitch. If any of y'all know anybody over at Crave Canada, you know anybody at HBO Max, slide them my fucking information so I can tell them about me and my co-host who will come and shut the carpet down. You know what I'm saying? We know y'all need somebody young, fun, lit, and that got a debit card. Just call us up. We'll pull up. As always, this is a reminder that this is not a Heated Rivalry channel. We've just been having a lot of really good discussions about Heated Rivalry, and I'm leaning into them. Make sure to like, comment. You know I want to hear them comments. I respond to all the comments. I know y'all see it. And subscribe. Make sure you hit what I now know is called the notification bell. And make sure to tell everybody you know two people that need to be at the season 2 premiere of Heated Rivalry and that they're not playing. This has all been a ramble, but I hope it proves the point. Over and out.